Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to a brand new YouTube live stream. It is Saturday, March the 2nd, 2025. It is kind of a dull day in Kitchener, respecting rain, and then the dreaded SNOW, as in snow, is coming in. I know that in February we had that massive snow week where we had two snowstorms of 15 plus centimeters of snow. Of course, I'm talking metric, I'm Canadian, so for my American friends, I'm sorry. But the fact of the matter is that, we had snow and now it's kind of melted away. So I just want to get you what I'm wearing because my stupid webcam, I think I've screwed up my webcam stuff. Hang on here. In a sense, because like my cord and all that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Wearing the Canadian Tire gear. Of course, if you know the title of my synopsis and basically that, the state of retail in Canada and all that, that's the topic for this live stream. So anyway, here's the skitty. I'm going to be talking about how bad retail is in Canada, and all this. Now, do note, I am not going to go at length about the whole tariff situation ruining both Canada and the United States. That's a given. But the fact of the matter is that retail in Canada, there's been a lot of major changes. And, I've been affected by these changes. So since I have been affected by them, why can't I talk about them? And I will talk about them. So anyway, a little background about myself as a retail worker. I never had a full-length job till I was 21 in 2006, when a job agency by the name of JobTrack, which works with people with disabilities, took me in and gave me job interview skills and job skills and all that. And then Sellers decided to hire me as a part-time worker for a 2-week trial run in September of 2006. I was still in school. This was my third year at Conestoga College. But the fact of the matter was that, I got a 2-week trial, and then in October, they gave me another tryout and all that. And I remember it was the 2-week stuff. And I remember my job coach, Krista, accompanying me to the job interview. And the second job interview I got with Sellers, basically I gave some kind of weird answer, I don't know, to a question. Like, it wasn't weird. It was like, this came out of nowhere. And then the interviewer turns to Krista, and Krista said, "We never discussed that," because Jeff just came up with it all by himself. So that's how I started. November 4th, 2006 was huge because not only were my buddy Mike Kappa and a group of people going on the bus to see the Leafs play in Buffalo against the Buffalo Sabres, but the fact of the matter was that, Mike, my brother was on that bus. And because I had to do some kind of thing, like I had to go to Sellers and all that to work. It was my last day of my 2-week tryout. Practically that, I couldn't go to Buffalo. So basically I did all that. I got the job and I was just a seasonal worker for November, December until January, when I would be inevitably cut. But somehow, in some way, Sellers decided to keep me. And the fact of the matter is they kept me on, although I rarely got shifts. I think there was like 1 month I actually got 0 shifts. I still had to pop in and see what type of shifts I get. I was still in college, still trying to navigate college and all that. So anyhow, yeah, so I stayed on with them. And then in my first year in 2007, in November, there would be a massive shock. The lady I was working for, Gloria Simon, she left for another Sellers. So basically I was in the care of one Vicky Clinot. And she was my manager and all that. But our boss, Jeff Wilmeyer, went to Guelph, and then we picked up this woman by the name of Tracy Hiltz and all that. And, she was my manager and all that. So what ended up happening was, I still was working for Sellers. I was mostly in food and health and beauty and pets, just basically the front face shelves and all that. Not really putting away stock, but like, well, I would be putting away stock more so in my second or my third year. But anyway, yeah, so I did that for many years. And then all of a sudden, it seemed to be working quite a bit. I still was one of Sellers' top guys. And, because I lived not that far away from Sellers, they thought, okay, well, on my days off, it would be good to call me and all that. So I did my best and all that. Now, I did work through illness several times. One time I remember working the Saturday, not feeling bad. And then the Sunday was terrible. I had a bad earache, I had a cough, I was throwing up, but I still plotted through a 7-hour shift at Sellers. And a lot of people were like, you should have just went home. But I'm at the point that I needed to have the money and all that because I was not as financially secure as I am now. But the fact of the matter is that, I still worked at Sellers and all that. And there was a massive life change because my brother wasn't living with me now. He and his wife moved to Milton, and practically I was by myself. And then Edward got my Aunt Mick to come live with me. And so we've been living together for 16 years. So that's the fact. And, then I didn't have to move out. So anyway, yeah, so I worked at Sellers, and then there's always a Sellers goodbye that, it will, like the throwback, the Sellers goodbye. Like I'm just going to create a Sellers goodbye for like 10, 15 minutes and give you like a throwback and all that. So you'll be able to see what happened. And, because in April 2012, we were told that Sellers would be sold off to Lords and Taylor, and they would be selling off the leases. So that meant that Sellers would cease to exist in Canada. So yeah, it took 8 months. And then January 2013, just around the time the NHL was going back to work after a work stoppage, is basically the Sellers goodbye, January 14th, 2013. That was the day after my brother turned 37, I would like to say. Yeah, 37. So yeah, everyone gave speeches. I gave my speeches and all that. You'll see my speeches when I, link it and all that. Yeah, but of course I'll do like the throwback and then like make some cuts and all that. Simply put, it was not easy for me to lose my Sellers job because, that was my job for 6+ years. It's the longest job I've held. And then, of course, to have it all taken away. But everyone gave me credit. Like my boss, Tracy, said that she was happy with me and said I was one of her top 5. And I'm like, why? I don't know. But anyway, she said bigger and better things. I hope so. So, I lost my job at Sellers, but I gained a job interview with Target. Now, Target's American, I know, but Target decided, let's go to Canada and let's try to build within Canada. I mean, Walmart did so. So Target went with their ambitions. And, Target would take over the Sellers lease. Now, most stores like Home Depot and Walmart took Sellers leases, but because there was a Walmart already at the Sunrise Center, which is like a few kilometers away from the Laurentian Power Center where I worked, with that Sellers, that meant that, they couldn't be a Walmart. It couldn't be a Home Depot because in the same Laurentian Plaza was Rona. So, it was just Target by acclamation. And the good news is because, at Sellers, we got a free job interview. And through the 3-step process, I managed to get it. I didn't work with Job Track to get the Walmart job. The Target job. That was actually building bridges. BES, building employment services in downtown Kitchener by where the Glockenspiel is now. The fact of the matter is that, they helped me with the job interview skills and got me into the Target thing. And so, I could do my job interviews up. And ironically enough, it was at the hotel just close to BES. So basically, it was easy to get there and, the interviews. So I did pretty well. And then in March No, March. Yeah, in March, I got it. The job interview. Sorry, my throat is a little parched because I have been doing. I did a Degrassi video today. I did commentary on George Foreman's boxing thing, a tribute to George Foreman, and I did context about tribute to Kenneth Sims, who was the Patriots' #1 pick in the 1982 draft. He didn't amount to much in a sense, but yeah, that's what happened. So anyway, yeah, so I got the job, and then by May we were ready to set up because we were aiming for a mid-July 2013 start date. And of course, that's what happened. I helped set up the store and all that. And then in mid-July 2013, that just the day after I started going to open space, a Monday night group for people with disabilities, Target started. And so Target did their jobs and all that. And it looked cool and all that. You got to love the store. And yes, I will have the link to the shopping, the Target farewell and all that. So I was at Target. I was just doing the same stuff, like stocking shelves, front-facing shelves, doing all types of stuff. I didn't get to be in the food department as much as I wanted to. But Target, the ideals of Target was a lot different than Canadian Tire, because with Target, we would have like midday huddles and all that. We would have sellers huddles before the day started and after the day ended. But we had midday huddles, and then we would all work together to clean an area and all that. And, and to help customers too. So we had a lot of fun with those huddles and all that. And then, of course, Target was starting to lose money on it and decided to flee Canada, which meant that a lot of us had to lose our jobs. I remember that day was January 15th, 2025? Yeah. No, 2025. 2015. What am I thinking? Cutter. So anyway, January 2015, I was there, January 15th, and they announced on the news that Target was leaving Canada. So I go to my 5 to 9:30 shift, and I end up kicking over a chair and saying, that's how I feel, because, I was going to lose my job again and all that. And then, of course, we did the goodbye. And ironically, it's 10 years ago today that Target closed down and I made a speech. So January 22nd, 2015 was when that happens. And yes, of course, I will do a rehash of the video already on YouTube, but do it like a condensed version, and I will link it in the description. So the fact of the matter is that I did all that. And then, yeah, it was fun at Target. I made the speech. When I did my seller's speech, I cried at the end, and then I cried at the start of Target, but then I started getting in a flow of things and all that. There will be a massive connection with Canadian Tire. But the fact of the matter is that, Target left, and I was unhappy, of course. But little did I know that it would take about close to 4 years to find another job. Now, I wasn't completely out of work. I was doing work for my buddy Bill Lang's Tender Tool app and all that. I wonder how that's going. But anyway, yeah, I did work and all that. I didn't really get paid, but I got like perks, like shirts and workout gear and all that, because me and Bill would work out at University of Waterloo at times. And, I was still looking for a job. I told myself I will not degrade myself to go to Walmart. I know that Walmart's got some bad practices and all that stuff. And I said, my mom did not raise me to work at Walmart. My mom and dad raised me to work at a good end job. So that's what I led to. I really pushed the envelope and like 3 or 4 times applied to Canadian Tire at Sunrise Center. The fact of the matter is that Sunrise, it was fun, but, I never got to that store. So like, geez, and it's right in my backyard too. That ticked me off because, I could easily walk to work and all that. I wouldn't need the bus and all that. I tried a few spots in Laurentian. Staples got me like a 3-part interview process, but unfortunately, though, I wasn't the best in those interviews, and I was not given a chance. Microplay wouldn't hire me. EB Games wouldn't hire me. Home Outfitters wouldn't hire me. Sayers wouldn't hire me. I looked for jobs near me. One job I never considered was Sheridan Nurseries. And I'm thinking to myself, what would I do in a greenhouse? I don't think I have the skills for a greenhouse. So basically, I didn't have a full-fledged job for 4 years. And then all of a sudden, um, oh my gosh, job agency in Kitchener. Oh, the job agency in Kitchener. Agilic. That's it. Agilic. So I went to Agilic and they got me a job interview with Sheridan Nurseries. And I'm thinking to myself, a greenhouse? But then the fact of the matter is that, I'm thinking to myself, do I really have those skills? But then I'm like, well, I've been out of work for 4 years. I might as well try. So I remember the day of the interview was the day after Kawhi Leonard's famous bouncing shot in round 2 against the Sixers in the 2019 NBA playoffs. It went in, and then I got in to Sheridan. They gave me 2 5-hour shifts, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 3. And I'm like, well, 10 is better than 0 for working hours. I take it. And so I was just basically cleaning up and putting stock away and all that. It got a little monotonous, but I did it. I did the job. I did my work. So like, poof, that is just how you do it. The fact of the matter is that, it was a good job and all that. It got me the skills for today because, I was out of practice for 4 years, but I got back into it. I did have, of course, neck problems and vomiting and all that at times during that session. But yeah, I was pretty good. And unfortunately, in early August 2019, they told me the news I was dreading is that I was just for the summer and basically business was going to dry up and they didn't need all the extra hands. So basically, I was upset. But the fact of the matter was that, I kind of got severance and, no, I didn't get severance. I only worked 3 months. So anyway, yeah, people were gracious to me and all that. I tried to be gracious back to them. So yeah, but lo and behold, I lose my Sheridan job. That wasn't the end of it because ironically enough, I was dreading, oh, Sheridan is going to get rid of me. So I decided to look for another job. And lo and behold, Agilic gave me a job offer at a Shoppers Drug Mart, not the one near my house at the Sunrise Center, but at Forest Glen Plaza, another shopping plaza that had the bargain shop at one time. That's now Planet Fitness. They had grocery store. I think it was Independent Grocers or something like that. But yeah. And they had Rogers Video for a while. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, the Shoppers Drug Mart and all that hired me and all that. So I'm like, okay, cool. That sounds cool. So yeah, and they hired me. And I'm like, well, how am I going to juggle the 2 jobs? But Sheridan dumped me off before I started my Shoppers Drug Mart job. So it actually worked out kind of isn't. So I lose the Sheridan job on the Thursday. I should go this way. So I lose the Sheridan job on the Thursday. And then on the Monday, I lose the job. I gain the Shoppers Drug Mart job. So that's what I did. I got Shoppers Drug Mart. I got the job. And so I would be working, ironically, every other day, literally every other day. So 1 week would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and 1 week would be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But they would all be 7:30 to 10:30 shifts just to deal with the food aisles and making sure they're clean and all that, putting stock out and, rotating the dairy products and all that, picking up the dairy products from the freezer and all that, stocking and all that stuff. I was happy with that in a sense. So it was not that bad. Like, I worked with food and all that. I could use my skills and all that. I was basically told that, I had to reduce my footprint, if you will, and, put the stuff close to you. You don't have to run to your cart and all that. But anyway, so I did that. I did all that and, it's so good. But unfortunately, Shoppers Drug Mart canned me. It was January 15th, 2020. Ironically, 5 years after Target dumped me off. Well, Target said they were going to close. So anyway, I was asked to come to the office and they said, well, because your job is a little redundant, we're going to have to replace you. And I'm like, are you serious? And of course, they gave me a severance. I just basically told them, I said, if you had just told me, give me 2 weeks notice, then fine. Why did you blindside me? So basically I got blindsided, and then I left work early because, I was just sent home. So I was upset. And then that day I decided to go to Agilic and ask them to help me find another job. I went to Sheridan and they said, well, come back in March to apply. So that was my plan. Of course, we don't know about that whole COVID cloud was going to ruin us. So as is, Agilic gave me a job offer at Shoppers Drug Mart in Waterloo, at the one by the boardwalk. Of course, I'm like, how am I going to get to the boardwalk? One, and two, why is it not the Canadian Tire near my house? And three is I have to get a bus pass. So, getting the bus pass was not as easy as it looks, but I did. And it actually works out in a sense. Two was that, I shook my fist at Canadian Tire 420. And then three, I researched through Google Maps and found a bus route. So the 201 runs at Activa, which I can actually walk to. I just walk down the pathway. There's a pathway close to a park near my house, and then there's a pathway down to the bus stop so that I can take the bus stop, I got off at Keats and walked all the way through and meandered. But the fact of the matter is I changed my route and all that. Yes, I'm aware I got hair sticking out. The fact is that now I'm going to walk at Herb because it's actually faster. So yeah, it works out well. I just have to take one bus there and one bus back, and I can easily walk home. So that worked out. And then, of course, in the middle of things, there was a stupid transit strike. So yeah. So I went to the job interview. Agilic was hosting the job thing at their place for the store. So I did that. And then all of a sudden, Chris Morrison comes in and tells me this stuff, and I'm preparing for a lengthy interview. And then after like 3 or 4 questions, he says, okay, I guess we can use you. And I'm like, that fast? Really? Yeah. So we'll find a way for you to come in. So I do. And then, in 2020, that was 2020. And then February 2020, I was told, okay, you'll start in March the 3rd, 2020. Okay, I'll start March 3rd and, get my first shift and all that and get accustomed to the Canadian Tire landscape. But fate just had a deadly hand. And the week before, like the Saturday, I lost my dad to heart failure caused by pneumonia, which was not diagnosed by the doctor, which was the stupidest thing possible. At least one of the doctors apologized. Nevertheless, I was going into my first week at work a little shaken. I was considering trying to come back the next week, like say I need a week off. But then I basically said, well, Dad always was one who said, don't weep for me, do what you have to do. So oddly enough, on the Tuesday, I went into work, my first shift. And then Wednesday, I ended up having to go to the visitation for my dad. And then Thursday was the funeral. And then the Friday, I came back. So I only worked 2 days that day. But I would be only working 3 days a week with the fill crew, filling shelves and stocking stuff. Of course, COVID ruined the Canadian Tire experience and we couldn't have customers. So we were spending all the time filling and cleaning and all that shit. It got to the point that it was okay. I was fine, but I wasn't perfect because, I hadn't worked that type of angle for years. But then in October, fate again set in, October 2020, when one of my coworkers, Sam, was so mad he punched the side of a trailer, broke his hand, and basically they needed someone for the warehouse. So they were looking for someone young, full of knowledge, quick, and can do things and knows the system. They couldn't find someone fitting that role. So guess who got the job? Me. So I would be working in the warehouse. It was supposed to be temporary, but then they're like, nah, this guy might work out. So since October 2020, I've been working in the warehouse. ironic enough, because, my shyness and all that, why have I not been working at a warehouse, like work in the back at all? I never worked at the back at Sellers. I never worked at the back in Target. I never did for Sheridan. Well, in a sense, it's bringing the stock out, but like working and like unloading the truck and all that. I never did that. Imagine if I had that skill set, I might have not had the 4-year drought like I did. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, Canadian Tire did their job and all that. And then, I did my job, went to receiving, and then more tasks were made of me. I was told to clean up the garbage and clean up the parking lot and all that. So that's what I ended up doing. Like, I think it was 2021 when they started asking me to do that. So yeah, so I have to like clean up the garbages and all that every day that I come in. Like, I only worked I only worked 4 days a week naturally. But then in 2022, I think, or 23 was when I got to 5 days a week. Yeah, I think 2023 I got bumped up to 5 days a week instead of the natural 4. So that's what happened. So yeah, I did all that. And then in 2022, I was asked to do a task called the garden center, like the soil compound. So what happens is we have a fenced in area with all the soils, the big soils, like the peat moss and lots of golf green stuff. And also our brand name. It's going to hit me, but it's not going to hit me. So regardless, I would be sitting out there all day, like cleaning up the compound and then selling soils and putting soils in people's trucks. And that's what I did. So yeah, so the past 3 summers I've been doing that. I'm bound to do it for the 4th summer in a row. But like, I'm going to tell my bosses, I'm going to be like, I'll do it on the condition you get someone in receiving to counterbalance me being absent, because, I'm not going to be doing receiving and all that. I'm sure they'll do it. But the fact of the matter is that, I got that task to do and all that. So yeah, my main task in the back is just unloading the trucks, cleaning up within the warehouse, stuff on the floor, and, taking stuff up to the front to be tagged, taking flyers up, and then taking flyers back, so for the cashiers and all that. So yeah. And then helping customers. And of course, the most important thing, carts and carryouts. That's basically my role. 2 or 3 times a day, I would go outside and gather up all the carts. We have big carts, but we also have the tiny carts, the atom carts. I know somebody calls it a derogatory term, but I'm not going to use it. So yeah, I take those carts and then I make sure that they're stocked so that the customers can get their stuff in. Even the small carts, because they're popular, because now that you don't need big carts for everything. So regardless of that, I do that. And then on occasion, I would be asked to do a carry out for a customer, like with a large item and all that. More often than not, I just do it myself, and I don't need my buddy's help. I don't need my coworkers' help and all that. So yeah, I've done that. I've got some great reviews and all that. Some of them have given me money, even though that, you really shouldn't. But nevertheless, that's my job. And I also do propane exchanges. Like, there's a propane cage and all that I exchange propane tanks in. And yes, I can lift propane tanks. So that's that. So anyway, yeah, my jobs have to shuffle. And now this year, and now in 5 days time, Sunday, 4 days time, sorry. In 4 days, I have to adjust to a new system, because our current owner, Joe Cayenne, he's gone. Like, he's going to Woodbridge. He's taking Connor, our store manager, and I think David, our GM, is also going to Woodbridge. I think. I can't remember. But the fact of the matter is that they're gone, and now we got a new system. We got a new owner. We got a new GM. We got a new store manager. We got some new people coming in. We also lose another supervisor, Ellen, because she's going to the Canadian Tire in Brantford, because, commuting from Paris to Waterloo is not really the best thing. So yeah, we got to adjust to a new housewares manager. And in June, I'm going to fall apart, because my former warehouse manager, who's now seasonal manager, Aaron's now going to Ganawakwe. I can't pronounce it, but yeah, It's outside of Kingston, so that store, and Chris Morrison is the GM there. So practically, I have to end up being so I lose Aaron, and he's the guy that's been the guy who's kind of got me to Kitchener Ranger games. I went to 11 games this season. I only went to 10 Kitchener Ranger games. Yeah, I only went to 10. I've been to 10 Kitchener Ranger games before this season, only 10, and then I've been to 11 this year. The funny thing is that I've been to one of every three Ranger home games. I've been practically to one. So I have a 33% ratio of watching Ranger games and spending a lot of money on snacks, but nevertheless. So yeah, he's gone, and that's going to hurt me because, Aaron is young. Yeah, he's 13 years younger than me. But yeah, he was the warehouse manager in 2022 when the other guy left for the store on Victoria Street, which begot the store at Ottawa North, because Ottawa South is 420, is Sunrise Center. But nevertheless, he became the warehouse manager, and, it was fun and all that. He kind of, in a way, got me to be better and all that. And it was more laissez-faire, and I worked hard with the laissez-faire attitude, and I did pretty well. Well, I have done pretty well though too. My new warehouse manager, Alan's a pretty cool guy and all that, and so is Zach, my coworker in receiving. They're both cool and all that. So it's just, I guess, the three musketeers: Alan, myself, and Zach, all for one for all. There is a drawback to being in receiving, and that has to do with getting stuff for customers. Mostly because of my strength. I find myself that I can't lift too much above my head. I can lift things like at waist level and all that, fine and dandy. But when I put stuff on top, like I have to extend upwards, I don't have the strength. I don't have the upper arm strength I used to have. So basically, that's a bit of a problem. I do have coordination issues too, so that's not good. So yeah, with the whole new regime and all that, I really feel terrible. But then I told myself, you know what? This is a perfect start. You're going to have a new regime. You're going to have to prove to them your trust. And you're going to make sure that they know that you're a good, hard worker and all that. This is a fresh start. So basically, I'm telling myself, this is a fresh start. You could prove to people why you're so good and all that. Why can't you? Exactly. So that's that. Of course, I'll be uploading the seller's goodbye. I'll be uploading the Target goodbye, like the condensed version. And then, of course, I will release the Canadian Tire farewell video and all that, just for context and all that. And no, everything is copyright. There will be no copyright, I hope. Okay, so I told you about my retail business in 33 minutes, which is pretty good. Now, now for the real reason why. So, as many of you should know, if you're Canadian, you'll know this. If you know, you know. If you're American, you're not really going to know. That Hudsons Bay, the Hudsons Bay Company is going to go out of business. So their store, the Bay, is one of the major department stores with their high-end perfumes and clothing and all that. I don't know what the American equivalent is. Definitely not Walmart. So they're basically in bankruptcy protection. So that practically means that all the HBC stores are probably done. So the main stores at Conestoga Mall and Fairview Mall are basically going to be gone and all that. So yeah, the climate was terrible. Hudsons Bay had overpriced perfumes and and clothes, and also the fact that they didn't appeal to the younger generation, like the millennials downwards, like the under 40 crowd, if you will. It was basically for those of a certain age. I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of baby boomers who are senior citizens and all that, and they might need stuff and all that. They might need this and that. That's not bad, but yeah, they didn't really appeal to the younger generation like Walmart and other stores have. So that's kind of awkward. So that's practically why the store's gonna That's why Hudson's Bay's gone. And of course, it's like, well, it's just Hudson's Bay. What do you have to do with it? Simple. Because Sellers used to be part of Hudson's Bay. Hudson's Bay had a lot of stores under their banner, and Sellers was one of them. We sold Hudson's Bay stuff. We sold Olympic stuff. We sold a lot of Canadian stuff, the whole buy Canadian process up north. Now, I'm going to say this. Americans, I don't hate you as a people. I just hate your POTUS, your president of the United States, freaking trying to bully Canada into a trade deal. Like, all he has to do is say, we need a new trade deal. Canada's like, okay, you asked for it nicely, we'll give it to you. But no, he's being a jerk about it. And this is the second time around for Trump. But nevertheless, I just speak from things. Yeah, like I worked at Hudson's Bay and all that. The Canadian retail climate's big. COVID ruined the retail climate for a while. But, it built online friendships, and, you could buy stuff online at Canadian Tire online, and then you just pull up to the curbside and, someone will drop it off for you and all that. We did it because of COVID, and we still do it because it's a fun, fast way, and you don't have to go into the store. But we still get foot traffic. We still get a lot of good foot traffic, especially during patio season and Christmas and Easter and Halloween. We see some people. So, yeah, that's just how it is. And you know what? I'm still going to be at Canadian Tire. People probably thought I was going to leave. I was actually offered a chance with Aaron and Cameron leaving for Kingston. I was offered a chance, but I turned it down saying, I just can't. I'm not financially viable. And the most important thing is I'd be too far away from my family. I rely on my family. I know I rely on them maybe too much, but, my brother is my landlord. I know he lives in Mississauga, but, he's my landlord. He comes by and he has to refinish the basement. But this has been pretty good. Like, I like this setup now. I'm not on the floor. I'm not at the other end of the room. I'm in a wall, painted the walls, got me a new couch and all that. So, yeah, it's fun. It's really fun and all that. But, yeah, and I'd be too far away from my mom, who I might need for stuff, and my sister, Christine, who lives in Waterloo. So, yeah, family's everything. And Canadian Tire is like family, too. I mean, you got to see the great tribute to Joe and all that I will be uploading today. You have to see it. And you have to see my speech from Sellers closing. And you have to see my speech when Target closed. I can speak well. I just have shyness. I'm a shy person. Everyone knows that. But you know what? I'm not shy when it comes to talking about sports. I'm not shy about talking about politics, even though I shouldn't really be involved in politics. And I'm not shy in my work ethic. I work my ass off. I know being autistic, you have to work twice as hard as normal people do to get noticed. But everyone notices me for everything. Yes, it's an invisible disability. I know that. But the fact of the matter is I'm still here, and there are going to be a lot of haters, and I have to learn that haters got to hate. Don't play into their cards. Let them play in your cards. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. I love my job. I really do. I would not have, if I didn't like my job, I would have left. But I didn't. I'm sticking to it. Even though it seems like, it's just like the work you do, garbages, recycling, carts and carryouts and all that. That's just for low-end people. So what? I'm the only one that's willing to do it. And yeah, it's not the best job, but it's a job, and I still get recognized and all that. People give me kudos, and that's what I work for. I work for the kudos. I work for my coworkers' kudos, and I've built a lot of friendships and all that throughout the years, and all that. And stranger may be a new friend, and hopefully I get to deal with the new guys in such a way. So anyway, thanks for watching my near 40-minute rumble. But anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu until we meet again.